want to know if you got your popcorn ready. Do you got your popcorn ready?
All day, every day.
Good morning, my neighbors!
That's why these two guys here, these are the men I want as my friends. They're the new blood.
Episode 62 of the Detroit Sports Podcast is on the air. The Doc and Jock Sports Show is here and ready to deliver another great hour of Detroit sports content. Joining me is my cousin, the Jock, Adam Strozinski.
Sexy all over.
I am the Doc, John Macaroon.
You're an idiot.
What's up, cuz? You ready to drop another great episode?
Let's do it, buddy. Let's talk about these Lions.
We got a great podcast lined up. For those of you who've been kind enough to download, we are going to talk about the Lions. Great victory versus Minnesota. We went in, handled our business, got to 4-2, and now we look ahead to a premier matchup versus the Saints this Sunday. We are going to definitely talk about the defense. The number one defense in the NFL gave Teddy Bridgewater a pounding. The Lions defense showed the entire NFL why they are top ranked, and they're for real. We're going to definitely talk about that. We're going to talk about the offensive woes. What can we do, maybe possibly to improve the offense, and can we continue to play at this level and be competitive? We're going to get a chance to talk to Shannon Sailes, the dancing usher at the Palace. You know him, you love him, you see him at the Palace. He always brings a unique form of entertainment, and his video last year went viral when he had a dance competition with a young fan at the Palace. And we'll get a chance to talk to him. Then we're going to play a round of The Doctor is in Session, and the Jock has some great questions lined up, and we're going to get into some sports debates. Cuz, you ready to kick this bad boy off?
Can't wait, buddy. I can't wait.
Cuz, interesting game versus the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday. The Lions were without Calvin Johnson, and the offense kind of struggled, and the first half was really tedious. Back and forth punting, not a lot of offensive execution, and it was just really a tough game to watch. But in the end, the Lions defense came through. They held the Vikings to 3 points. They basically handled their business. 8 sacks? That's unheard of. Ezekiel Ansah made Teddy Bridgewater his bitch.
Bam, bitches!
And it was great to see one of our top draft picks stepping up in his second season and making progress. And it was a great performance. We got a lot to talk about. But in terms of the defense, outstanding. Lots of pressure, lots of great action, lots of pressure on the quarterback. And the Vikings, without Adrian Peterson, really struggled. And we took it to them. That's what you're supposed to do. Go on the road, crush a team that's below you, and handle your business. It doesn't have to be pretty. Not all wins in the NFL have to be pretty. Take the win. You're 4-2. We can definitely talk about and explore the offensive woes. But all in all, you're a good football team, and your defense is starting to make waves all across the NFL.
Don't you feel like they left a little bit on the field, though? Like, I really feel like that offense should have put that Minnesota Vikings team away. I feel like that offense should have produced more. I feel like that offense should have did a lot more on the scoreboard. And I feel like that offense should have threatened more, should have gotten in the red zone and sat there and put up some points. Instead, you got Matt Prater basically kicking from the 44, the 50, and the 52. He went 1 of 3. Thank God he made that 52-yarder. It helped salvage a little bit of salvation for my fantasy football team, but that's beside the point. I just don't see this offense that's supposed to be so high-powered and so well-regarded actually moving the ball the way they're supposed to be.
Yeah, so if you're a fan of the NFL Red Zone or DirecTV's Red Zone channel, you didn't see the Lions because they never got to the Red Zone with or the Vikings.
That's true. You didn't see any clips from that game.
Let's look at the offensive woes. Let's start with this. Your number one weapon, Matthew Stafford's go-to guy, is not on the field. And there's a potential chance that Calvin Johnson doesn't play this Sunday versus the Saints.
Might not get him back till after the bye.
And that's really tough. It's tough for Matthew Stafford because that's his security blanket. That's his go-to guy. That's the guy that kind of expands the field, so that you can open up the running game. So basically, you're left with a check down offense. You're not running really significantly deep routes. The defense doesn't have to do a lot of work to figure out what you're doing. Golden Tate is a decent receiver, but he's not really a significant deep threat like Calvin Johnson. So the defense doesn't have to do a whole lot in order to, bracket the receivers.
Did you feel like Golden Tate dropped a few balls that he probably should have had? I mean, I know when we signed him, we talked about what a great receiver he was and how he hardly ever dropped balls. And I just remember watching that game, seeing 2 and 3, maybe even 4 significant drops that he should have had that would have really helped move the chains, would have helped got that offense in some type of a scoring position and really just helped further the cause for that offense. But I just feel like he either took his eye off the ball or he maybe got alligator arms or he just didn't complete the reception, which is kind of shocking for that guy.
Because here's what's really happening in effect if you look closely. Matthew Stafford right now has been sacked 21 times.
What the hell is that about?
The offensive line is crumbling around him. So inevitably, and it's natural to happen, he's got happy feet. So his throws are not as crisp and solid as they were in the first game when the offensive line was protecting him slightly better versus the Giants. And so his throws are not as accurate as they have been because he's dancing around there and the pocket is collapsing a hell of a lot faster. And second of all, right now, in terms of the offense, the strategy, I believe, has changed. I don't think Caldwell and the offensive staff want Matthew Stafford throwing for 5,000 yards every season. I think they want him to. I think the offense for the Lions has become slightly more conservative. And when Caldwell got here, his onus was, let me do some things so that Stafford can reduce his interceptions and reduce his turnovers. In the last 3 weeks, he's only had 1 interception. And overall, this season, through 6 games, he only has 4. So last season, he had 19 interceptions throughout the entire year. And this year, he's only on pace for 11.
This same exact point last year, he had the same number of interceptions. He had 4 interceptions through 6 games, and then they went into a tailspin.
Yeah, but I think this year they're not putting him in the position to throw that many picks because they're running a more conservative offense. More screens, more passes in that 6 to 10 yard range so that the efficiency is higher and that he can not make so many mistakes. So they are running a more conservative offense, which is the reason why they're not dropping 20 and 30 points every week.
While I agree with you that they're running a more conservative offense, I think a lot of the onus for a lot of these problems has to fall back on this offensive line. You kind of touched on it a little bit. I don't think they've gelled. I don't think they've come together really well thus far this season. And I don't know if that's just a new coaching scheme, if that's just kind of the play calling and just what the players are doing. I don't know if there's just maybe a little bit of dysfunction on that offensive line because most of these pieces are the same exact pieces they had last year. And Matt Stafford was one of the least sacked quarterbacks last year. And whether that was just him dumping the ball off before he got hit or if that was just the actual offensive line holding up and protecting him, it's not happening this year. And that's causing a lot of problems. You're seeing it with the run game. You're seeing it with Matt Stafford with the happy feet you kind of touched on. Some of his throws are a little bit offline and they're a little bit errant. They basically went 1 for 13 on 3rd downs on Sunday. You can't have that. You're not moving the chains. You're stalling out and you're putting your defense, which is the number 1 defense in the league, but you're putting them in a bad position because they're going out there and they're basically having to play more and more and more snaps. They're not getting an adequate breather on the sideline that they need. So this offensive line has to, at some point, either come together or Jim Caldwell is going to have to change it up, kind of like what he did in Baltimore when he sat there and reworked some of those pieces on their way to on their way to a championship.
Yeah, because here's the thing. I think right now the Lions are working with what they have. Can you imagine in the past the Lions being without Calvin Johnson going into Minnesota and winning the game? No. In the past, we've seen the Lions collapse and make poor choices and lose a game like that on the road. But right now, we won the game. So it's always good to improve while you're winning. I'm curious to get your opinion. Do you think that the Lions, showing what they have so far on offense, can continue at this pace winning games? Can they continue to rely on that defense?
I think as you play better competition, when you start playing these better quarterbacks, like you're taking on a Drew Brees this weekend. After that, you've got a Matt Ryan. And I know he's throwing for a lot of yards, and that team doesn't look as good as they probably looked at the beginning of the year. But when you start playing these better quarterbacks, these guys who can win games late, when you take on Aaron Rodgers this second time through, I don't know if this defense will be able to hold up. That offense is going to have to help out. They're going to have to either change up their game plan, maybe get this offense in a rhythm, start utilizing, like you said, more of those little screen passes, because that first drive looked really good with Theo Riddick. He looked like a savage out. And that was basically just dump-offs and handoffs to Theo Riddick, letting him kind of move the ball down the field. I don't think that this defense will hold up and be a number one defense come the end of the year. I don't know if they can sustain the injuries that they have. I mean, because you got to remember, they've already had a lot of injuries. So you now have to look at that toll that's going to take over the course of the season. I don't know if they'll be a top 5 defense. I think they'll be within the top 10. Let me give you a couple numbers here, okay? I've got a few. I did a little bit of research here. The 2000 Baltimore Ravens, they kind of ring a bell to you?
Yes, they
Probably
do.
one of the best ones of all time, yes?
Yes.
They pitched 3 shutouts on their course to basically going on and winning a championship. All right, so I did a little bit of comparative analysis here. The 2014 Lions compared to the 2000 Ravens. The Detroit Lions have the number 1 overall defense through 6 games, giving up 270 yards. That 2000 Baltimore Ravens team had the number 2 overall defense, giving up 248 yards. The Lions have the number 1 pass defense currently with 197 yards. That Baltimore Ravens team had the number 8 pass defense with 187 yards. We have the second best run defense with 73 yards. They had the very best run defense with 60 yards per game. Currently, the Lions lead the league in sacks with 20. This number kind of astounds me here because that 2000 Baltimore Ravens team was 22nd in the league with only 35 sacks. For a team that stuffed the run as well as they did, they never really got home and hit the quarterback. We're top 5 in interceptions with 7. They were top 5 in interceptions with 23. Currently, the Lions lead the league in points per game at 13.7. The 2000 Baltimore Ravens team led the league in points per game at 10.3, like I said, posting 3 shutouts. So these defenses are kind of similar. The passing numbers are a little bit different, and I think that's just kind of the age that we're in with the NFL. But I think that bodes well for them possibly getting into the playoffs and making a little bit of noise. I just don't know if this defense, if you can lean on them all the way through till week 17 to get you into the playoffs when you're now week 18. I don't know if you can do that. This offense at some point has to come alive and has to put some numbers up and has to at least win you a few games.
Yeah, no, when you think about our defense, the thing that we always wanted was consistent pressure from the defensive line. Can this front four with Ansah, Jones, with Sue, with Fairley, can they consistently stop the run? Can they get pressure? And can they disrupt the offense? And they've done that. It'll be upon them when we play better quarterbacks to continue to get that pressure and to continue to disrupt opposing offenses. And I think they can continue this streak of great play. And I think that with the emergence of Whitehead, with the continued great play of DeAndre Levy and the solid play at corner and safety, we have a different mindset. I think they can take more chances, run more blitzes, and get to the quarterback and create more turnovers. Cuz can you imagine that we watched a game where the Lions had 3 interceptions? It's unbelievable. I think the Lions right now are doing some things under defensive coordinator Terrell Austin that are really pleasing to watch. And it's refreshing. It's great. It's not the same old Lions. This team is different. Do I think that there's a chance there'll be games where we don't play as well? I think those games are the games where the offense has to step it up. We can't discount the fact that Reggie Bush missed the game versus Minnesota. He brings a skill set that when he's not there, you can kind of see. He's got speed. He's got, he's a veteran presence, and he can help be, he can be one of those guys for Matthew Stafford that can help move the chains. And so right now, we just kind of got to weather the storm while we're waiting for Reggie Bush and Kelvin Johnson to come back. And I think we can do that in terms of our schedule. I think we're going to be in most games. There aren't going to be too many games where opposing teams come in and blow us out. So we're going to be in games. That's when you're going to need Matthew Stafford to kind of step it up and make the key throws and help this offense keep it moving. And because it wasn't interesting, all across the league this Sunday, you had the Dallas Cowboys dropping 30 points. You had New England dropping a lot of points. You had Cincinnati.
Baltimore putting 5 touchdowns up and not even at halftime yet.
The Cincinnati-Carolina game was going back and forth. It ended in a tie. And the Lions played a defensive game. It's really different. You thought the Lions would be playing going into the season that the Lions were going to score a lot of points. Right now, that's just not the case. I think, though, that with this style of play, this is a style of play that if you continue to build on it, is a championship style of play. And that's why I sit here very happy that we're sitting here 4-2. We're on top of the division. And as long as Terrell Austin keeps coming up with these great schemes, then we got a great chance. And I'm sitting here thrilled. I'm loving it. I'm liking the fact that the Lions are a defensive team, and we're sitting here breaking down the defense. It's great.
It feels really weird to actually be talking about a Lions defense right now. Generally, we're screaming about a Lions defense, talking about how it has a giant holes all throughout it. But this is different. I like this. I like where they're building. I'm not ready to cement them, though, as kings of the NFC North. I want to see what they do when they take on Chicago on Thanksgiving. I want to see them kind of get through this little upcoming stretch where they're playing some of the best teams in the NFL. You're going to be going up against a former powerhouse in New Orleans. I don't think they are what they used to be. You're going to be going up against a team like Atlanta. You're going to be going up against a very good Arizona team. You're going to be going up against a team like the New England Patriots. And then you've got to sit there and you've got to tackle that Chicago Bear. They're coming to Detroit. You're going to play them on Thanksgiving. That needs to be a win. You need to sit there and you need to get a W there because you're going to be playing your 3 conference opponents. You're going to be playing Chicago, and then you're going to be playing Minnesota, you're going to be playing Chicago, and then you're going to be playing Green Bay to wrap up the season in that order. And those games are going to be very important. Winning your division in the NFL is very, very, very important. So they're going to have to sit there, and they're going to have to at least get splits with these teams early, and then come back towards the later half of the season, and hopefully they can dial in and get 2 out of those 3 games would be impressive.
Let's just say this. Let's not count on the last 2 games having to be must-wins for the Lions, because I'm not ready yet to, crown the Lions as a team that can go in and play really well in must-win situations. Right now, they're playing good. The pressure is not as great. They're handling their business. This coming Sunday versus New Orleans, Jimmy Graham is likely going to miss the game, so that's a big plus for us. I think that the Buffalo game left a terrible taste in their mouth. The Lions are going to put on a good show for the fans, and it could be an exciting game going back and forth as Matthew Stafford and Drew Brees match wits. It's going to be a statement game, and I'm hoping that Matthew Stafford elevates his game and matches what Drew Brees is going to do, because Drew Brees is going to be prepared. He's going to know what he needs to do, and the game should be very, very entertaining.
That Buffalo loss looks so bad right now. It just leaves a sour taste in your mouth because they really should be in control of this division, heads and tails above Green Bay right now. But that Buffalo loss really kind of hampers them a little bit and just looks horrible.
Yeah, it wasn't a great game, but like I said, it's a long season. You're going to have some games where you don't play your best, and like we said, the Lions are struggling with some injury issues, and sometimes you just, on a Sunday, you have to give kudos to the opposing team. They played good on defense, and the Lions didn't do enough. The great thing is we haven't had significant losing streaks. The Lions have turned it around quickly because you got to remember, in the Matt Millen era and the multiple coaches he had, Mariucci, Rod Marinelli, the Lions struggled mightily to win games on the road. It wasn't a given. The Lions would go on the road and just basically crap the bed. And I think, was it like 21, 22? It was well over 20 games consecutively that we lost on the road. And so right now, this season, we've already gotten 2 games on the road, and the Lions are playing great. And so week by week, I think Jim Caldwell is doing the right things in terms of getting this team prepared. The only area basically that we're still jacked up in is kicker. Of course, Matt Prater, who all last year just missed 1 kick, already has missed 2. The Lions, I think, have missed approximately 10 field goals this season already, and that hasn't happened in numerous years. The kicking situation needs to be straightened out, and hopefully Matt Prater at home doesn't miss kicks, because it's really odd. Everyone's like, oh, Matt Prater, he's the man, and he missed them, and everyone's kind of like, okay, it's his first game. They're making excuses for him. They're kind of giving him a pass because he's Matt Prater. Dude, he's just like everyone else. If he misses kicks, he's got to be gone. And so the kicking game and special teams has to improve, and as long as they work to continue to not leave points on the field and improve the kicking game, it'll be all good.
I thought that was weird, too. Everybody basically gave Matt Prater kind of a pass, like, oh, it's okay, don't worry, it's just Matt Prater. Whereas everybody else was basically hung out to dry, and you were looking to lynch them. A guy like Matt Prater, however, gets a pass. I'm not exactly sure why. Maybe it is his lineage as being one of the best kickers in NFL history and being able to kick a 62-yard field goal.
64. Yeah.
64-yard field goal. Maybe that's why. It doesn't really make sense to me, but I'm glad that he gets another week because I do think he is the answer at kicker.
You think so?
I do.
So that's good. So the kicking situation is resolved then. Jock says Matt Prater is going to be good. Jock co-signed for Matt Prater. Let's just hope that he maintains his roster spot because can you imagine versus New Orleans?
Four kickers.
Could you imagine a 55-yarder to win the game and he misses it? Ooh, Ford Field will get hot under the collar.
It'd be a disaster.
No, but I think good things. I see good things ahead, and I think the Lions have a chance to get hot here and get on a streak. And Jim Caldwell has them playing very well, and I'm proud to say I'm a Lions fan, and the games are entertaining to watch, and I'm looking forward to watching this game on Sunday versus New Orleans. Stay with us. After the break, we are going to get a chance to talk to one of the famous entertainers in the Detroit sports scene, the Dancing Usher at the Palace. We'll get a chance to talk to him, introduce ourselves, get a little glimpse into his life and his experiences going on the Jimmy Kimmel Show, the Today Show, when his dancing video went viral. Stay tuned.
I'm Megan McCormick out here in Fox Sports LA, and when I'm not sitting out in the sun, I'm listening to the Detroit Sports Podcast.
You got to check out their stuff. I mean, I'm really impressed by it. You guys have probably one of the better ones I've seen in the country.
Wow.
In a short period of time, you've done good work. Look at me kissing your hand.
I know.
All right, Detroit Sports Podcast listeners, joining me on the line. When you go to the Pistons games, and sometimes the atmosphere with the game in the past few seasons hasn't been great, there's one individual that livens up the crowd and always brings great entertainment. You know him, you love him. He's known as the Dancing Usher at the Palace of Auburn Hills. Shannon Sailes has been kind enough to give us a few minutes. Shannon, how are you tonight?
I'm great. I appreciate you for allowing me to come on your show.
Yeah, it's great. The best part about doing a podcast is we get a chance to talk with local individuals that provide us entertainment and are interesting individuals. And so I'm curious. I read that you started dancing around the age of 5 and you would entertain your family, and you were definitely one of the individuals that brought life to a party. What kind of music would you dance to and entertain your family with when you were a kid?
Well, growing up as a kid, with family gatherings, they used to have the Jackson 5. That was a big thing around the house full of family because I had a lot of cousins and I got an older brother, so being 5 years old, and we used to imitate the Jacksons when we were young. So they would have me as Michael, little Michael, doing ABC. So, stuff like that. And James Brown growing up, and then when I got a little bit older, I got off into Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly. I like the older cats, the genre like Gene Kelly from Singing in the Rain, stuff like that.
Did you have a large family? Did you grow up here in the Metro Detroit area?
Oh, yeah, a very, very large family. I had tons of cousins and nieces and aunts and uncles, huge family, and been born and raised here in Detroit, Michigan all my life, never left. How
did you become involved with the Pistons, and how long have you been an usher there at the Palace?
This will be the fourth season at the Palace. I applied as an usher to get services online, and when I got the job, that's how I started on, applying for the usher online.
And so when was the first time that you busted a move and said, you know what, I can provide a little different form of entertainment for the crowds here in Detroit?
Well, being an usher, that was it's a job. I went on there to do my job. And I think like the second week, believe it or not, as an usher there is when everything happened. And I didn't plan on being the dancing usher, after watching the dance cam come on the crowd. And I'm just doing my job, escorting people to their seats, and making sure they're comfortable and they're enjoying the environment. And when they throw on the dance cam for a time out, they would show people in the stands listening to the music, and they'll stand up and start dancing or dance in their seat. And the second week, me being there, I used to enjoy watching it myself, it was entertaining. And I guess the camera came over in my section, and I assumed it was going to someone in the stands right near me, but they had it on me. And when I looked up, I was like, I like to dance, I said, before they get the chance to go to anybody else, I'm going to cut loose a little bit, and I did. And the stadium went crazy, and that's how it started. And I wasn't expecting it to be as big as it was, honestly.
So take us through your video that went viral with the young fan, Antoine Alexander. Did you expect that video could potentially go viral? What was your reaction to a video becoming an internet sensation?
Well, Antoine, he's a nice young man. I can't say nothing but give him praise. 11 years old and multi-talented. talented, but we'll come back to that. As far as that video going viral and all that, it wasn't expected. At the time when I saw the young man on the video, on the Jumbotron, and I see him dancing and having fun, I said, well, I'm going to have some fun with the little kid, It's a nice young man, and he's enjoying the Pistons game. And you could see he got full of energy, and he's a joy to look at. His smile was radiant. He put a smile on your face just watching him smile. So they threw the camera on me. So I played along. Let me play with the kid, and edge him on a little bit so they can keep him going, And when I did, that's when the little challenge went on, And I look at that as a God-gift blessing as far as that battle,
Yeah, and once the video went viral, you hit the circuit. You were on Jimmy Kimmel, you were on the Today Show. How excited were you to be on national television and to share your love of dance with the whole country?
That part, the funny thing about that, the first time the video went, viral, I wasn't expecting it. I got a phone call and was like, the Today Show is blowing this video up of you and this young man, And before I know it, I'm getting phone calls from the Today Show, Good Morning America. I'm getting phone calls from CNN and Inside Edition. It just major phone calls from major companies. And it was mind-blowing for me because I was looking at it through Alexander's eyes as an 11-year-old kid. It wasn't so much me that was excited. I was like, man, this is going to be great for this young man. And that's where I got the most excitement from, was enjoying it through a kid's eye.
No, it was well deserved. You deserved it, and you do a great thing out there at the Palace, especially in some lean years for the Pistons. Are you a big basketball fan yourself?
As far as the Pistons, I've been fair with the Pistons. That's my team. I've always been a Pistons fan, and that's the team I'm with. I like the Detroit Pistons. I always have and always will be.
Okay, good.
But I like UFC.
You said you like the UFC?
Oh, I love it.
Oh man, that definitely is a good time, man. The fights are great, the fight games, but they're not showing a lot of heavyweights nowadays. I mean, I think the UFC needs to scale back just a touch and put on a few less cards.
I do too. I would love for them to come up to the Palace. I would get in the ring with somebody if they would donate to the homeless. I wouldn't take a dime. They can whoop on me as long as it's at the Palace and they represent a good cause. Breast cancer, anything,
By all accounts, Stan Van-Gundy is very personable. He's a guy that's very approachable and is very, got a presence there, maybe more than others have had in previous years. Have you had a chance to meet him and have a chat with him?
Oh, yeah. And, the great thing about this, I have to say young man, I always say that, is he's personal to everybody. He's reachable. He's not standoffish. When we're eating and having lunch, he comes down where we all having lunch. He's not someone he's in the back, he's in his special office or something. No, he's sociable. He comes down. He bought me lunch. He knew who I was. Isn't that amazing? Somebody like him acknowledged who I was first. He came to me, he said, "You're the Dancing Usher." And I was like, wow, I got the coaching on who I am. So he's an incredible guy. He smiled, he socialized, he got full of energy. He out there with the team. The only thing he's not doing is dunking. He's out there with the team, and it's a good feeling to see that. The energy he brings to the Palace is amazing.
Joining us on the podcast has been Shannon Sailes. He's been kind enough to give us his time, talking about his experiences, being one of the most famous ushers in the NBA. Now, Shannon, I'm interested and curious to see the Pistons this season, are kind of in that transition phase. I think that they have a chance to make the playoffs as a 7th or 8th seed. Where do you see the Pistons shaking out this year?
I see the Pistons going all the way. I can't say just the playoffs. I'm a person who believes, if you're going to believe, you got to believe all the way in 100%. I don't believe just playoffs. I believe they're going to win. They're going to bring a ring home, and they're going to do it this year. That's the only way I can think. I can't think halfway. You understand what I'm saying? The Pistons is hungry. We got a beautiful, beautiful team. All the players are ready. They get along. They play well. It's like a new Detroit Pistons team, period.
Yeah, and one of the perks of being an usher at the Palace is you get to see some of the other NBA stars. Who do you like to see on the court, and what teams do you like to watch that play the Pistons over there at the Palace?
Believe it or not, I like to see them play all the hardest teams because I think they can beat anybody. The Pistons of past they never got beaten by another team to me. they lost to other teams because of the mistakes they made. The other team never really beat them to me. So it was just them capitalizing on their mistakes. I don't think there's a team out there that can beat them, to be honest. So any team they play, I look forward to. If they play LeBron James, they can beat them. They like the new bad boys. So, everybody's amazing. Everybody carries their weight on the Detroit Pistons. There is no superstar to carry the Pistons. You get what I'm saying? Everybody's a superstar on the Pistons to me.
Listeners of the Detroit Sports Podcast, definitely take advantage of the opportunity to go to the Palace of Auburn Hills, enjoy NBA basketball, get out there, and definitely go out to the Palace and watch the Dancing Usher. From all accounts, you're very kind and you're very gracious, and your energy and spirit is one of the motivating factors for a lot of individuals. And so I'm grateful that you took your time out of your day to chat with us and give us a little bit of your time. We hope to get a chance to chat down the line.
I would love to. Is it possible I can say one more thing? They say God is in all of us, and I just want to say this. When I get up in the morning and I put my clothes on, I like to make sure God looks good. Whenever I speak, I like to make sure God sounds good coming out of me. So for the world that's listening, the basketball and everybody in Radio Land, make sure God looks good on you, and that's my message.
Shannon Sailes has joined us on the Detroit Sports Podcast. We look forward to chatting with him down the line, and we're looking forward to a successful season and watching some great dance moves. All right. We want to thank Shannon Sailes, the Dancing Usher, for coming on the Detroit Sports Podcast. It's always great on this podcast. We get a chance to reach out and have great conversations with individuals that we find interesting and are part of the local sports scene. So thank you very much. We greatly appreciate it. All right, cuz it's that time for The Doctor is in Session. The doc is here, ready to go. I'm greatly looking forward to the questions that you ask me, and I'm ready to deliver.
But to be the man, you gotta beat the man. And I'm saying, woo, right here. I'm the man. Woo!
Get ready to man your battle station, buddy. All right, the Detroit News released a story with Brad Ausmus. Lynn Henning did an extensive interview with him. In it, he defends his usage of the bullpen down the stretch of the regular season and throughout the playoffs. Dickhead. He basically stated that Anibal Sanchez was on a pitchings count and an innings count. How do you interpret his comments in the piece, and how do you feel about what he said about his usage of the bullpen and that he would do it again if he had to do it all over again?
Now, imagine, cuz it's Monday morning, you're just getting up, and you open the newspaper, and that garbage is coming on the page. Not that many people read the newspaper, as I've read recently that the Detroit News readership is under 100,000 and the Free Press is under 200,000. The circulation and the readership of those papers is down, and I can see why. I opened that paper, I read that garbage, and I got pissed right away. I'm looking at that writing, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Brad Ausmus, that's the kind of information you want to tell the fans this close after you got swept by the Orioles? Get the fuck out of here. That is not acceptable. That is basically telling your fans, it is what it is. I made my choice. Deal with it. That's in essence what he said. That is totally unacceptable. I cannot believe that that was printed and that was his attitude towards, the end of the season. I understand a lot of people will say a lot of these managers are not going to come out to a journalist and say, yeah, I jacked it up, I fucked up. But there's another way of saying, I want to revisit the decisions I made, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to learn from my mistakes and move forward so that we can be a championship ball club. It's not that hard. A schlub like me sitting here can spew that out instantly. But I'm not going to sit here and tell the fans that are coming strong to the stadium, 3 million strong every season, and tell them, listen, my choices were my choices, and I do the same thing. You do the same thing.
No! Oh, my God!
I want somebody to use his fucking brain.
You had Jabba Chamberlain basically give up numerous runs in Game 1. All we're saying is, next time around, if you see a pitcher that blows it and is sucking, you don't bring him back the next day when you have a lead. And when everyone from the national media to podcast hosts to sports fans to the bloggers in town all are saying that this is the worst abomination of a bullpen that has ever existed, and you bring him back in Game 2 and you say that you do the same thing, what the hell? You're basically, insulting the fans, and you're basically, anyone that read that, the natural reaction would be to be pissed off. And so that's not how you endear yourself to the fans. I wish he would have chosen different words to express, his frustration. It's not acceptable. No, you have to learn from your mistakes, and basically you're given a pass. You still have your job. You're a first-year manager, and you were basically given a pass because the bullpen and the bench was an abomination. But at the same time, you can't sit here and say, I would do the same things if the situation happens again. You can't say that. It really frustrated me and pissed me off when I read that bullshit Monday morning.
I think everybody can tell that you're upset. I think that he could have came out and he could have defended his use of the bullpen, and at the same time basically said, yeah, there were some things I would have done different. There are a few things that I would have liked to have done different. We're not going to get into that, but yes, I would have liked to have done some things different. I feel like you're absolutely right. It was basically pouring salt in the wound, basically saying, hey, we relived this nightmare. Let's live it again, and we'll keep living it over and over and over again, because what I'm doing is not insane. We're just going to keep rehashing the same entire thing. It's like it's Groundhog Day all over again. So yeah, I really think that he maybe chose his words poorly there. He could have done something a little bit different, said something a little bit different, and maybe clean that up just a scotch.
Yeah, and it's not like we're asking him to sit there and cry for us and basically, rip himself in the media. But all he's got to say is, listen, I made the decisions with the information that I had. I'm going to revisit all my decisions in this offseason, and I'm going to be dedicated to working towards building a championship team. And if that involves me getting better at my decisions, that's what I'll do. That's all you had to say, 3 seconds. Instead of saying, I'm just gonna be Mr. Harvard man and just say whatever I want and be all defensive. Then you got smart fans here in Detroit. You got passionate fans, and when you spew that kind of stuff to the media, all you're doing is pissing off the fan base that supported you.
Moving on, something that'll make you happy. Kind of ease that burden of what Brad Ausmus and those Tigers did. What are your thoughts on Vegas picking the Michigan State Spartans as the overall favorite to win the first NCAA playoff championship?
Yeah, I think I read overnight that they're like a 13-2 favorite to become the first national champion in this new 4-team playoff format. I love it. That's great to hear, but I just think that the people in Vegas are a little bit misinformed, because for Michigan State to even qualify for the playoff, they got to win out, which is not exactly entirely easy to do when you're going to play Ohio State. And you got to win a Big Ten title game, possibly versus Nebraska, who played you pretty close. It's going to be difficult for the Spartans to get to the 4-team playoff because they have to win out, 1. And 2, a lot of other teams kind of have to lose. You got Mississippi State undefeated. You got Notre Dame. A lot of people are saying, that the Notre Dame versus Florida State game is basically an elimination game, that the loser of that is out. You got teams in the SEC. You got the 4 other conference winners. And so I just think that a 1-loss Michigan State team has to have a lot of things happen in order to qualify, because I think the panel and the committee is going to take definitely the winner from the SEC. I think they're going to take, another team that's undefeated. There could be 1 or 2 other teams that are undefeated. And so is Michigan State the best 1-loss team? I'm not sure the committee feels that way, especially when the Big Ten as a whole, the conference is weak. You had a chance to make a statement versus Oregon, and they went out and lost the game 2 now. The Spartans have to basically win out and get lucky and have to have a lot of things fall into place for them to get to the playoff. And then when they get there, I think that, they have a chance. They have a puncher's chance because of the defense. But I don't think, I'm being realistic. I don't think the Spartans have a national championship team. I think they could play the best game they played all season and maybe get to the final if they qualify. But I don't think they could hang with a Florida State, or they could hang with a strong, fast SEC team.
I think that defense from Michigan State carries a lot of weight with Vegas, and I think that's probably why they're instilled as highly as they are. However, I think you make great points. What has surprised you with the Royals, who are currently rolling in the ALCS? This was a team that basically the Tigers beat up. They basically came within basically a fingertip of winning the Central. They lost to the Tigers. Tigers got put out, and now they're putting the workings on Baltimore. So what surprised you the most about these Royals?
Well, what's really surprising is that they peaked at this point in time in the season. You would have thought, common sense would have told you that the Tigers would have been in the place of the Royals and they would be playing their best baseball sitting here in the middle of October. But it wasn't the case. The Royals defy all the odds, because all the fans, all the people, all the numbers people, all the people that love sabermetrics are going crazy and pulling their hair out, because Ned Yost does things in terms of his decision-making that fly in the face of sabermetrics. Right now, the Royals are playing great fundamental baseball. they are peaking at the right time. I mean, they're getting clutch hits, they're getting home runs, and they're playing a brand of baseball that's just really fundamentally sound, and they're winning. Right now, cuz they got a strong running game. You got super fast hitters at the plate in terms of Lorenzo Cain, Alcides Escobar, Norichika Aoki, Alex Gordon. They get on base, and they're zooming. They're ready to go to second base and third base. They are 12 out of 13 in stolen base attempts in October. So they're able to get on base, and they're able to get runners over, and they're getting the clutch hits to get the runs. The bullpen for Kansas City had the 10th best ERA in all of baseball with a 3.30. The strength of the Baltimore Orioles is right-handed power. The bullpen of Kansas City is able to neutralize that. Kelvin Herrera, Wade Davis, and Greg Holland, they have the ability as a bullpen to shut down talented right-handed power hitters. And so Kansas City is poised right now to eliminate the Orioles and get to the World Series. Let's not discount the starting pitchers. You got James Shields, you got Ventura, Jason Vargas, Danny Duffy if needed. And so right now, the Kansas City Royals are a complete team, and they're playing the best baseball at the right time. And it just sucks because we all thought that the Tigers, with their experience and their talent, would be in this position right now. And so when you really look at it, Kansas City Royals built their team the right way, and they built a complete team. And that's the kind of team that can compete for a World Series. And so the Tigers got caught doing something that really is kind of disturbing, and that's building a flashy team, building a sexy team, building a team that will draw fans, but not building a team that can win a World Series.
I think one word can describe this Kansas City Royals team, and that's balanced. I think they're balanced from head to toe, whether it be that lineup, that bullpen, that starting rotation. I think they're just very, very balanced, and that's what you're seeing right now in these playoffs. What are your thoughts on the NHL hiring Chris Pronger, a man who was known as the dirtiest player in the NHL at one point, as their head of player safety?
I absolutely love it. I think it's a great thing, and you got to look at it like this. I'm going to use this analogy. When casinos have big, huge security breaches and someone comes in there, rolls in there, steals a bunch of chips or steals money or cheats the games in a way that is profound, like let's say someone rolls up in there and steals like 5-6 million in chips or hustles the casino, what does the casino do? Sometimes the individual gets prosecuted, but more times than not, the perpetrator cuts a deal with the casino because he has the ins and outs. He knows the system. He knows the leaks in the system, and he knows the ins and outs of security. And so this is the same thing. Who is better suited to monitor the player's health? Who is better in terms of judging a player's intention in terms of checks or dirty hits than one of the most dirtiest players in the game? He knows because he's spent years as a defender trying to stop top-level talent. So he's the guy that's perfect in this position because right now, player safety is at the top of the list in terms of priorities in sports. And so Chris Pronger, if he sits across from a player and asks him, hey, you're skating to this position and you throw out your elbow, what were you trying to do? A player's can't sit and bullshit him. Pronger knows. He's been there. He's been through the wars. And so he'll bring a great perspective in terms of making judgments, making key decisions for the NHL. He'll make sure that the rules and standards that are in place will benefit the players. And so I think it's an absolutely great hire. I think he's the best person to take the job. I think it's very important because you had a scare there in terms of one of your marquee players, Sidney Crosby, battling concussions and the effects for a couple seasons, and he was gone. And so you want to market these players. You want to keep the players safe. The best way to do that is to have someone strong in that position for player safety.
I like how you went all Ocean's 11 on this. Just the whole thing. You just went Ocean's 11. You got George Clooney basically playing the role as Chris Pronger. It's great. All right, what are your early impressions of Stan Van-Gundy? We're only a few games into the preseason for the NBA. What has he done that's kind of impressed you?
Stan Van-Gundy is in a position to succeed, and other coaches that have coached the Pistons aren't in that position because they've always had to fear that the players would go above their heads to management. Stan Van-Gundy is the president of the team. He's in full control. He doesn't have to deal with player drama and player politics, because he's the end-all be-all. So with that said, he's brought in a guy in Caron Butler that was with him previously in Miami that knows how he does things and that can be that conduit from the players to him. And so from all accounts, he's running great, intense, long practices, and the players are responding. The philosophy now at the Palace has changed. The attitude has changed. There will be no more inmates running the asylum. It starts and ends with Stan Van-Gundy, and that is absolutely great. And so right now he's reshaped the lineup. He's got a lot of shooters. Unfortunately, in the first couple games, the shooters' percentages are really low. They're not really hitting the three-pointers as well. But you can see an obvious change in terms of the defensive intensity, the rebounding, the effort. I think that the Pistons, at the very least, are now going to be a fundamentally sound basketball team. Stan Van-Gundy has a great reputation in that in every season that he's coached, he's made the playoffs. And so he's in charge now of a great rebuilding project, and he's in charge of helping Andre Drummond and Greg Monroe and Josh Smith reach that next level. And I think he's the perfect guy to do that. I think he is not afraid, and he doesn't have to be. If a player is not performing, he can go right up to them and check them, be like, yo, that shit was bullshit. You need to play a little bit harder. Why would you make this move? And he can go right up to a player and get in their face. He doesn't have to kowtow and be all nicey nice, and he doesn't have to worry about losing a player. If a player becomes a malcontent, he'll be gone. And Stan Van-Gundy is the man in charge, and that is what the Pistons have needed for so long, is a strong-willed head coach that will get these players motivated and get them to play fundamentally sound basketball. And so far, so good. I'm liking what I'm seeing with the Pistons. I'm liking the new offensive sets. I'm liking what I'm seeing from Andre Drummond and Greg Monroe. And so I think that Van Gundy was the perfect hire for this situation at this time. I'm thinking the 8th or 7th seed is doable. Whereas before the season started, that was like a pipe dream. But I think it's doable. I think you can make it as a 7th or 8th seed in the East as long as you play fundamentally sound defense and compete hard night in, night out.
As you were talking, I started to think of something. There basically is this logjam with these big men, and Stan Van-Gundy at one point before the preseason even started, basically said that one of these guys will probably have to sit. There's no way we can play all these big men at the same time. Do you think there's some type of resolution that happens during the season, whether it be them trading Greg Monroe, who signed a 1-year deal this offseason to come back and basically play out his restricted free agency, or do you think that maybe they might try to move Josh Smith so they can re-sign Greg Monroe to a long-term deal? I don't think Andre Drummond's going anywhere. So out of the two, do you think there's a resolution that kind of comes with one of these two players before the season ends?
Yeah, I think the first thing that I think I've seen a little bit more often is that Greg Monroe is probably going to be coming off the bench. Greg Monroe will be a player, I think, that will be fine with just coming off the bench and letting Josh Smith and Andre Drummond be the starters. Now, throughout the season, I think that it'll be a constant evaluation process, and he's going to wait and see how the team gels and how the team plays in certain rotations. I think he's going to, mix and match and see how the players play early on, and then he'll get a better understanding of how these players play in different spots. But I think the most likely scenario, the best scenario for the Pistons would be to trade Greg Monroe. I think nobody's going to want to take Josh Smith's contract unless a team gets a catastrophic injury and is really close to the playoffs. They might consider it. I don't think that a lot of teams are going to come calling for Josh Smith, whereas Greg Monroe can get you maybe a draft pick, can get you a good return. So I think the best bet, in my opinion, is around the trade deadline, shop Greg Monroe, get a draft pick, and get a proven player, and I think you'll be just fine.
You know what? I think you're kind of right on the right page there. I don't think you can move Josh Smith. I think that contract is too burdensome. I think you can, however, move Greg Monroe. I think he's a little bit better player. There's a little bit more, upside. He's a little bit of a brighter spot than, say, Josh Smith.
Isn't it funny, though? He thought he was going to get himself a max deal. He's ready, rolling up, like, okay. The kind of talk was, yeah, you're going to be a max player. And then basically his phone dead. No real offers, no real max deal. I don't think Greg Monroe is a max player. If he humbles himself and plays a decent season, you got the pick of the litter. If the Pistons don't trade him, he's going to have a lot of suitors that are winning teams. If he can, lower his expectations and take a little bit less money, he can go out to the Lakers, he can go out to the Clippers, he can go out west to one of those strong contending teams, and he could do some damage.
The funny thing was, I was going to say, the one team I think he fits maybe the best with would probably be a team like the Lakers.
I think so. I think in a rebuild, he'll fit in just perfectly out there. Yeah, so I think the chances of him being on this roster next season are pretty slim. It's part of the game. I think Stan Van-Gundy is doing a good job of bringing in improved players, and I think that his assessment of player talent will be very beneficial for the Pistons going forward. I don't think he's going to have as many busts in his draft classes as Joe Dumars did, and that'll be a great start because I don't want to talk about no more busts in the NBA draft. I want to talk about players that are succeeding and that are helping this roster get back to the promised land.
Well, you don't want to hear about NBA players joining MMA? You don't want to talk about that anymore?
No, I do not want to talk about that.
All right. That's all I got for you, Doc. Great job. Way to master the couch.
King of the couch is always here and ready to deliver, baby. All right, cuz, it's that time of the show. Last week, if you listened to our podcast and you followed along and you made the picks, you made some money. Both the Doc and the Jock only got one wrong, and we're sitting both at 15 apiece in the NFL Pick'em Challenge. What we do is we pick 3 games in the regular rounds, and we pick them versus the spread, and then we also pick, as a bonus for 2 points, the Lions game every week. In the past, we haven't been so successful, but this season, Doc and Jock have elevated their game, and we are picking great so far, and we're ready to continue that in what we call the NFL Pick'em Challenge. All right, I'm going to go the easy route, first pick. St. Louis is abysmal. They are horrible, and they are one of the teams that, I really feel bad for. The Rams can't catch a break. Jeff Fisher, quarterback, is hurt early, and they are abysmal. They're getting railroaded every week. And who's coming to town next? The Seattle Seahawks. So no doubt about it, I'm taking with my first pick the Seattle Seahawks over the St. Louis Rams.
Funny, that pick is on my sheet as well. I'm taking the Seattle Seahawks as well to beat St. Louis Rams. I think they go on the road to St. Louis, and I think they house them. Just a straight-up jail sexing. I think they're pissed off about their loss this weekend to Dallas, and I think they take it out on the Rams.
With my second pick, I have to give respect to the Cowboys. I think right now they're in a situation where because the Cowboys are playing unbelievable football and are gaining the respect all over the country. They go into Seattle and limit the Seahawks in their own house in terms of offense, and they go in there and they go toe-to-toe with them, smash-mouth football. They say, okay, you guys are great on the line. We'll go smash-mouth, toe-to-toe, and we'll show you what we got. DeMarco Murray's doing great. DeMarco Murray is a stud, and he's proving that he can be a feature back. We all knew it, but he was injury-prone. But this season, good Lord, he can put up some decent numbers, and so the Giants have no chance. Eli Manning, I don't know, this new system, I don't know if it's suiting him, but I think they're going to play better. But in the end, the Cowboys at home, I got, with my second pick, the Cowboys blowing out the New York Giants.
All right, with my next pick, I'm going to stay right here in the NFC North, and I'm going to take the Chicago Bears, laying 3.5 versus the Miami Dolphins in the Chi. I think Chicago is a threat. I think Jay Cutler is playing under control. I think he has a ton of offensive weapons. Miami Dolphins just placed Noshawn Moreno on IR, so he's not coming back. They just lost a heartbreaking loss to Green Bay down in Miami. So count on Chicago to take the game to the Dolphins, giving 3.5.
All right, cuz I got to stick with the hot hand. Andrew Luck is dominating.
Your boy.
He's dominating. I love picking the Colts. And at home, you always got to pick the home team. I think that the Cincinnati Bengals right now are reeling. Their defense is porous right now. I think that's just because I have them on my fantasy team, and they are not performing at all in recent weeks, and I think that pattern continues. With my third pick, I'm taking the Indianapolis Colts -3 over the Bengals at home.
All right, with my third pick, I'm going to stick with the Chargers. Go Chargers, go. They're at home, giving 4 to Kansas City. Chargers play a different style of football when they are at home. It blows my mind. They sat there and they almost lost the game to the Oakland Raiders in Oakland this past week. When they go home, though, it's totally different. That defense is usually amped up. The defense is usually sitting there coming up with turnovers or putting points on the board for that team. Phillip Rivers is playing like a man possessed. He's a top 3 quarterback right now in the NFL. I have no idea where he's come from, and this offense is just churning out points. So I think the Chargers win at home, giving 4 to Kansas City.
Good picks. I think we got a good chance of going 3 for 3, both of us, in that round. You are steadfast in your desire to want to pick the Lions games every week, and it's really tough every week to be
I drink the Kool-Aid and I eat the cornbread, bro.
It's really tough to kind of break down and be like, wow,
I rub my body down with all kinds of Honolulu blue butter.
Yeah, I
just go streaking.
I don't know.
You have pictures.
Yeah, I don't know what to expect week after week because, the injury situation, how are both teams going to handle their premier players being out. But the one factor that I can know for sure that will help the Lions is the fans. I think Ford Field is going to be a madhouse. I think they're going to disrupt the Saints, who are not the same team as before. So I think that the Lions are going to play a great brand of football. I think they're going to try to establish the run early. I think they're going to try to go toe-to-toe with the Saints on offense. And in the end, I think the Lions are going to win 24-21. So with the fourth pick, I got the Lions beating the New Orleans Saints.
All right, you got the Lions coming home. They're on a roll. You've got the New Orleans Saints, who just look abysmal this year. They don't have Jimmy Graham. That running game is slightly improved, but I don't ever trust the New England running game. You have no idea who the receivers are over there in New England. They spread the ball around to just about everybody. Nobody really gets any good touches. All right, Drew Brees is struggling this year, and I love Brees. I love his little chocolate chip on the side of his face that got carved out. I think it's cute. But I don't think New England can come in to Ford Field and put the wood to the Lions. I think this is a different Lions team. I think this defense sits there, and I think they corral Drew Brees. I think they hit him. I think they beat him up. I don't think they allow this running game to get started. I think this defense contains this New Orleans offense, and I think the Lions win this game. And you're right, it might come down to a Matt Prater field goal. We don't know. But I think the Lions roll out and get a win here.
I want to take a minute to have a chat with the NFL. Please. You owe us one, because on this past Sunday, you gave us the worst NFL broadcast team
that was
ever
so horrible,
established.
wasn't it?
I was watching.
Dude, I woke up, I flipped the game on, and I was like, this is abysmal. I looked at my wife, I was like, these are the worst two announcers I've ever heard.
This past Sunday was an embarrassment, and I'm tired of watching NFL games with the Lions and listening to garbage announcers week after week. This is the NFL. You got Hall of Fame players, you got great announcers, you got people who have tons of experience waiting in the wings to get on this broadcast. And you stick a UFC guy and some guy that looked horrible on camera? Unacceptable. I mean, they were calling out wrong names.
Hey, did you know that Golden Tate was on the Minnesota Vikings team?
I mean, DVR was the worst thing that ever happened to those two guys, because if you just went back and listened, they called the wrong names. They would say, oh, it's a first down, and they would not have reached the markers. They didn't know the distances. They didn't know what was going on. They sounded horrible. It was totally unprofessional and a disgrace for an NFL game, and we're tired of it. We deserve an MVP announced team going forward for at least a couple games, because what we were subjected to on Sunday was a disgrace, and I hope that that never happens again. This is the NFL. It goes across the DirecTV ticket. You need to have professional people in there, and if you're going to do that, stick them in Jacksonville when Jacksonville plays Cleveland. Don't do that to the Lions. That's not fair. We got talent on this team, and sometimes some of us don't want to listen to the radio broadcast. We want to watch TV and have a decent broadcast. That was not even anywhere close to decent.
The best part was the Twitter outrage that followed the colored man. I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Mike Goldberg?
Yes, Mike Goldberg, thank you. Was the Twitter outrage that followed him. And he sat there and he snapped back. He got into it with people. He had eventually went and deleted some of these tweets, but he got very argumentative. He used some profane language and kind of went back at everybody who was kind of basically all of his detractors. But they were awful. They were horrible. They couldn't get the right teams. They couldn't get the players with the right teams. Couldn't get the coaches on the right sidelines. It was a disaster. It was really bad.
And you would have thought a producer would have just told him in his ear, listen, just stop calling the names, call the number, 85. Could you see the number at least? It was horrible. Basically, a guy went into the job unprepared and had no idea what he was doing, and we were subjected to that. So it was just one of the most I was listening, I was like, this is probably the worst broadcast I've ever heard. I mean, if I could have went in there and just adjusted on the fly better than that.
For those who don't know, when you basically do a position like that, they basically give you a sheet, and it's got the names and it's got the numbers all the way down, right? And if you ever notice, generally when they call a game, like I'm going to mention this to you now, and you're going to pay attention to it, and you'll realize it next week when you're watching all these games. The play that occurs on the field is generally delayed from the announcing, right? So the play will happen, and it'll be like 1 Mississippi, almost 2 Mississippi, and then they'll kind of announce what takes place. Quarterback drops back to pass. The ball's already thrown. Before the ball, the ball is either caught or intercepted. That's when the announcer's like, oh, the ball is thrown. All right? So it's always delayed. So that way they can kind of gauge what they're going to say and kind of how the play is going to go. So that way they can judge how they're going to inflect their voice. These guys, like you said, just call the damn number. It's all you got to do. Like, oh, 85, Eric Ebron. You know what I'm saying? That's all you have to do. I mean, it's not that hard. These guys were awful. These guys were putrid. It was really bad.
I think the first time you said Don Zimmer, they should have just muted him. Don Zimmer. How disrespectful is that?
Right. Like, wrong sport, buddy. Wrong sport.
Totally doesn't even know the name of the coach. He was unprepared. Yeah, so the memo to the NFL, don't ever stick us with your rookie crew ever again. Not fair. I'm actually going to tweet that out. So I'm going to send a couple tweets out to the NFL.
Send it right to the NFL.
I'm going to send it right to the NFL and to Mike Goldberg, see if he responds back. Maybe we'll get him on the show, chew him out. Maybe he can chew out the fans. He can curse here. Maybe we'll get Mike Goldberg on the show.
You should send him a tweet before you do that for the NFL. See if he wants to come on.
Okay, we'll do. All right, cuz episode 62 has come and gone. We want to give a special thanks to the Dancing Usher at the Palace, Shannon Sailes. Great interview. Thank you, Jock, for another great podcast. You sat there with your coffee, you brought the noise, and another great episode. Thanks to everybody for downloading. We appreciate it. Please support the people that support us. Go visit our friends at the Detroit Sports Nation. You can find them on Facebook and Twitter. And please support us by visiting our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you for downloading. Thank you for telling friends about us. And thank you for helping us grow on all forms of social media. And thank you for listening to another episode of the Detroit Sports Podcast. See everyone next week.
Go Lions, go Wings.
I think you're great. I think you guys are hilarious.
I don't know shit about IndyCar racing. You totally wish I was walking around in high heels and makeup right now with the dress on.
I want somebody to use his fucking brain.
Figure it out.
They have been called a dirty ball club, and I can see why. This is a typical disgusting display by Rodman, Lambier, and Isaiah Thomas. The yellow